on this webinar series. And you all knows the participants are previously have already joined 3 sessions. Now this is the 4th session of this series. So this is the interactive session, because in this session I will not only speak, you have the right to speak and you can put your suggestions. So we can so the ICSI IPA can suggest our all suggestions to the IBBI, and the better regulations can be drafted, which can be fruitful for the creditors, debtors, and all the stakeholders. So without any delaying, I just start with the sharing. So I'm sharing my screen. So is my screen is visible? Please let me know. The participants, please let me know. Is my screen is visible?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you,
Yes,
sir.
ma'am.
Thank you, sir. So let's start with this. Because I will also show you first on the IBBI site also. Uh, this is also visible, na? The site which I am trying to show you is also visible, na?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay, thank you, sir. So I'm just sharing this. This is today's topic, pre-package insolvency regulation, processed regulation 2021. Because after 21, there was no change in this regulation. So this is the last regulation which was amended by the IBBI. So I will just share this. I think I have already shown you this. I don't think there is a need of this. And I'm also sharing one more screen, which is also fruitful. The regulations. One minute. This is the pre-packaged insolvency resolution, and these are the sections of this regulation. So, because the whole, when we will read this regulation, the regulation name is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India Pre-Packaged Insolvency Resolution Process Regulations 2021. So, this is the name of this regulation basically. And there is some definition part is here, short title is here, because in each and every part they will prescribe the section. So I will read the section bit together, so the better understanding of this regulation can be made. So start with this. These
Ma'am, I have one
regulations may
small
be called.
query.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
but what is the statistics? How many companies have gone for this pre-packaged insolvency resolution process till now?
sir, pre-packaged insolvency is not adopting by the companies mostly, as per my knowledge and understanding, because this is applicable for the MSME sector, and there is only the amount which was prescribed 10 lakh to 1 crore only. So there was a problem ki this is not applicable for means this is applicable for the MSME companies, but till the date no more pre-packaged insolvency resolution initiated for the companies. So they are not interested in this regulation basically. So as per my knowledge and opinion. So
That is why I think there is no
yeah.
amendments also.
No,
So
actually, according
yeah.
to my knowledge, there are two
companies which went into prepackaged insolvency. So there are companies which went into prepackaged insolvency, but as the government, what it expected that a lot of people will come over and do the prepackaged insolvency. It is not that kind of welcomeable
Mostly,
change.
yes, ma'am. Mostly creditors are not interested, basically, no, to go for the prepackaged insolvency process. Hello.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
yeah, actually, as rightly said by madam,
Mhm.
actually, more than two companies already went under insolvency, under prepaid regime.
Yes, yes.
However,
Mm.
the main problem is the hurdle is 29A as well as PUPE transactions. These are the main issues which are causing
Yeah.
that promoters
These
to,
are the issues,
yeah.
and some other issues are also ki the corporate debtor is taking the handover. The handover is always exist with the corporate debtors.
Yeah,
This,
that's okay.
yeah.
But these are the issues where even the promoters who want to go under prepaid, they are not in a position to go. Even the promoters who are originally promoters and they want to go under prepaid, they are not in a position to go because of these issues like 29A as well as PUPE.
Yeah, yes. So we have required.
According to me, it is not only 29 years, sir. Basically, it is a refined form of OTS.
Yeah.
See,
So
it is basically kind of a,
yes.
if you look into it, yeah,
Yes.
please, sorry. Go ahead,
Yes.
madam. Sorry, I disturbed you.
No, ma'am. So I'm here as a moderator because your suggestions are very important at the time. So we can suggest our all suggestions to the ICSI IPA, and the ICSI IPA can recommend to the IBBI for the further amendments. So this is required, ma'am. So let's start. This is the definition part. What is the applicant meaning here? The applicant means the corporate applicant filing an application for initiation of the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process under section 54C. So this is basically defined in section 54C. Now I will show you because I have opened this also. What is provided as per section 54C. So the application to initiate the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process. So where a corporate debtor meets the requirement of section 54A, a corporate applicant thereof may file an application with the adjudicating authority for initiating the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process. So basically it is defined that section 54A, here is they have prescribed for the section 54A, the corporate debtor eligible for the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process. An application for initiating the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process may be made in respect of the corporate debtor classified as a micro, small and medium enterprises. So this process is applicable only for the micro, small and medium enterprises and not for other type of companies. So first of all, I think there should also be a change that some kind of other companies, for other companies this should be applicable. So this is applicable at that time is only for the micro, small and medium enterprises under subsection 1 of section 7 of the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Act. So basically they have provided for which this process is applicable, and applicant means the corporate applicant who will file the resolution process as per the section 54C. So basically this is the process by which the application can be initiated by the applicant. Class of creditors means a class with at least 10 financial creditors. They have also classified who will be the class of creditors. So the class of creditors means a class with at least 10 financial creditors are there. Under clause B of subsection 6A of section 21, and the expression the creditor in class shall be construed accordingly. So sometimes if there was no financial creditors, then the operational creditor will be considered as the creditors, but class of creditors is only for the class with at least 10 financial creditors. under this subsection. So they have prescribed what is the meaning of the class of the creditors here. And code means the insolvency and bankruptcy code. Committee means the committee of creditors as constituted as per section 54I. Now, what is the section 54I? The 54I is provided committee of creditors. So basically here is the definition which is provided for the committee of creditors. The resolution professional shall within 7 days of the pre-package insolvency commencement date constitute a committee of creditors based on the list of claims confirmed under clause A of subsection 2 of section 54F. So basically the resolution professional will consider who within 7 days of the pre-packaged insolvency commencement date, what will be the committee of creditors. So, provided that the composition of the committee of creditors shall be altered at the basis of the updated list of the claims in such manner as may be prescribed. Because first list was provided by the corporate debtor itself, and then the resolution professional will also invite for the submission of the claim. So the final list will be prepared by the RP. And so this is provided that the composition of the committee of creditors shall be altered on the basis of the updated list of the claims in such manner as may be prescribed. So the first meeting of the committee of creditors shall be held within 7 days of the constitution of the committee of creditors. Means within 7 days they will constitute the committee, and first meeting of the committee will be held within 7 days after the constitution of the committee of creditors. And provision of section 21 except subsection 1 thereof shall mutatis mutandis apply in relation to the committee of the creditors under this chapter. So basically they have also provided that some section which is applicable for the CIRP process is applicable here, provided that the purpose of this subsection reference to the resolution professional shall be construed as reference to the corporate debtor or the resolution professional. So they have given the whole definition here. Whatever the committee of creditors which is constituted as per section 54I. Now, electronic forms shall have the meaning assigned to it as per the IT Act. Electronic means an authorized and secured computer program which is capable of producing confirmation of sending communication to the participants. So basically, they have also defined what is the meaning of electronic means here. So such communication at the latest electronic mail address as made available by such participants and keeping records of such communication. Now, fair value. Fair value means the estimated realizable value of the assets of the corporate debtor if they were to be exchanged on a pre-packaged insolvency commencement date between a willing buyer and the willing seller in an arm's length transaction. So they have prescribed that the transaction should be on the basis of the arm length basis, and the fair value shall be decided on the basis of arm length transaction basis as per the willing buyer and willing seller. After proper marketing and where the parties had acted knowledgeably, prudently and without compulsion. So in this case, they have also prescribed that the proper marketing should be there, and the parties should not be enforced by knowingly or by other means. So they have prescribed the definitions part here. The form means the form is prescribed. Identification number is the LLP number or CIN number, whatever, as per the master data. And the insolvency professional entity, we all knows means the entity recognized as per the IBBI and IPA regulations. And the liquidation value means the estimated realizable value of assets of the corporate debtor if it were to be liquidated on the prepackaged insolvency commencement date. So on the date of the commencement, whatever the liquidated will be considered as the liquidation value. Now, participants means the person entitled to attend the meeting of the committee under section 24 or any other person authorized by the committee to attend the meeting. So the participants, they have already defined who will be the participants. And process means the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process for the corporate debtor under chapter 3A, because the whole chapter is the 3A. Basically, the 3A is the chapter. This is the chapter basically for the pre-packaged insolvency. And registered valuer, they have also defined means the person registered as per the in accordance with the Companies Act 2013. And schedule means the schedule of these regulations, and section means the section of the code. Video conferencing or other audio visual means they have also defined here. Such audio or visual facility which enables the participant in a meeting to communicate concurrently with one another and to participate effectively in the meeting. So they have also defined here. Now, is there any suggestions from the participant side in this definition part? If they want to suggest anything in the definition part, they can provide their views. Otherwise, I will proceed further. So there is no suggestions for the definition part, basically. Now, meeting and communication. So the meeting required under this regulation may be held either in physical or electronic mode or in a combination of both. So we can hold the meeting physically or electronic mode. Both is prescribed here, or is the word is here. So and is not there, or either this or either this. All communications required under these regulations shall be made by electronic means as far as possible. So the all communication, they have also said ki shall be made. Shall word is here. Shall be made by the electronic means. So as far as possible. Now, essential supplies, they have also mentioned, as we have already known, as per section 14, we have already known what is the section essential goods and services referred to in subsection 2 of section 14 shall means electricity, because this is a necessity of a company, water, telecommunication services, information technology services. So to the extent these are not a direct input to the output produced or supplied by the corporate debtor. So basically they have defined this key to the extent these are not a direct input to the output produced or supplied by the corporate debtor, means production is not be here. The normal electricity is they have prescribed, which is requirement of a company. So water supplied to a corporate debtor will be essential supply for the drinking and sanitation purpose, and not for generation of hydroelectricity. So basically they have defined water and electricity they will provide, but they will provide only for the necessary use, not for the production. Now, extortionate credit transaction, we have already read this in CIRP process. What is the extortionate credit transaction? The transaction shall be considered extortionate under subsection 2 of section 50, where the terms require the corporate debtor to make exorbitant payment in respect of the credit provided, or are consignable under the principle of law relating to the contract. So require the corporate debtor to make exorbitant payment in respect of the credit provided. So basically, they have defined whatever as per the CIRP process, the section was mentioned in the liquidation. I think liquidation part, this section was mentioned. So they have same taken here. Now, pre-packaged insolvency resolution process cost. So for the purpose of sub-clause E of clause 23C of section 5, pre-packaged insolvency resolution process cost shall means fees payable to the AR. So they have covered this as a CIRP cost. We covered this, so they have covered the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process cost. The same here. Out of pocket expenses of the AR for discharge of his function under section 25A, and any other cost directly relating to the process and approved by the committee. So so they have defined what will be considered as the prepackaged insolvency resolution process cost, which we have already we have also read the insolvency resolution process cost as per CIRP
Hello?
regulations. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello?
Sir. Yes, sir. You
Yes,
are audible.
sound is not coming?
Sir, my sound is not coming.
Yes.
Hello. Sir, nobody told me.
No, it is audible. It's clearly audible.
Yeah,
It is
clearly
audible.
audible,
It is
actually.
audible.
Yes.
Okay.
Ma'am,
Okay,
it is
sir.
audible, but it is very low.
Okay.
I think, sir, you have got some problem. We are really,
I think it should be increased from the source side.
yeah.
Sir,
Yes,
is there
it is very good.
sound is good, na sir?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, sound is very
Yes,
good.
yes,
Okay.
very.
Sound is very-
Okay,
It
thank
is
you,
at
sir.
their end, I think.
Okay, thank you, sir. So this is the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process cost. Now, if any suggestions to add something in this process cost or some changes is required here in these regulations, the participant can suggest me or the ICSI IPA, so we can recommend the changes if required. So no suggestion to change these regulations. Now, eligibility for resolution professional. Subject to the consent in Form P1, the insolvency professional shall be eligible to be appointed as an interim resolution professional or the RP, as the case may be, if he and all partners and directors of the IPE, of which he is the partner or director, are independent of the corporate debtor. So basically the same definition which we have read earlier in some of the regulations also. The person shall be considered independent of the corporate debtor if he is eligible for the appointment of the independent director on the board as per section 149 of the Companies Act, or is not a related party of the corporate debtor, is not the employee or proprietor of the partner of a firm, or the auditor or secretarial auditor, means the of a firm of auditors. Other means the auditors means the statutory auditors or other type of auditors, or the secretarial auditors or cost auditors. So they have covered all these firms of the corporate debtor, or of a legal or consulting firm that has or had any transaction with the CD amounting to 5%. So when we will considered as a RP or IRP from the legal firm, then we should calculate the 5% of the gross turnover, whatever earned by the whatever the income from the CD. So we should take this amount, the 5% of or more of the gross turnover of such firm. So the transaction shall not exceed with this. So any of the preceding 3 years, in any of the preceding 3 years. So this is also mentioned here, in any, not average. We will not take the average of last 3 years. We will check each and every financial years means. So the resolution professional who is the director or the partner of the insolvency professional entity shall be eligible to continue as a RP in a process if the insolvency professional entity or any partner or director of such insolvency professional entity represent any of the stakeholders in the same process. So if they are the direct link with this who is the director or partner of the IPE, then they will also not be shall be ineligible. So they will not be eligible to be continue as a RP. If the same in the same matter, any of the partners are representing to any of the stakeholders in the same process. So fee of resolution professional, here is also prescribed. What is the fee of resolution professional? So where the corporate debtor fails to file an application or application for initiation of the process is rejected, the fee payable to the RP for performing the duties as per section 54B. So what is section 54B here? This is the duties of the resolution professional before initiating of the prepackaged insolvency resolution process. So what is the duty of the RP? The insolvency professional proposed to be appointed as a resolution professional shall have the following duties commencing from the date of the approval as per section 54A. Clause E, namely to prepare a report. This is the duty of the RP to prepare a report in such form as may be prescribed, confirming whether the corporate debtor meets the requirement of section 54A and the base resolution plan conform to the requirements referred in clause C of subsection 4 of section 54A. So basically this is the duty of the RP. Now file such report and other documents with the board as may be specified and perform such other duties as may be prescribed. The duty of the insolvency professional under subsection 1 shall cease if the corporate debtor failed to file an application for initiating the prepackaged insolvency resolution process within the time prescribed as stated as per section 54A 2F. So first we will read this section also. What is prescribed as per section 54A. The corporate debtor eligible for prepackaged insolvency resolution process. So an application for initiating the prepackaged may be made in respect of the CD classified as we have already read this. Now subsection 2 which provides कि without prejudice to subsection 1, the application for initiating the prepackaged insolvency resolution process may be made in respect of the corporate debtor who committed a default referred in section 4 subject to the following condition that it has not undergone means these are the condition that they have previously not undergone in a prepackaged insolvency resolution process or completed the CIRP process as the case may be during the period of 3 years. So basically we should check the 3 years period, the previous 3 years period in which they have not gone and not completed any CIRP process, and it is not undergoing a corporate insolvency resolution process or no order requiring to be liquidation to be passed, or it is eligible to submit the resolution plan as per section 29A. So basically this is provided here who will be eligible and who can submit the application basically. So this is defined here. The financial creditor of the corporate debtor not being its related parties. They have also said the FC is not the related parties, representing such number and such manner as may be specified, have proposed the name of the IP to be appointed as a IR resolution professional. I will told you there is some changes which I will suggest in this. So I will tell you later on. But first we are discussing the duties part. So this is the clause F subsection 2. Basically, they are saying clause F subsection 2. Now we are on clause F. The majority of the directors or the partners of the corporate debtor, as the case may be, have made a declaration in such form as may be prescribed, stating inter alia that the corporate debtor shall file an application for initiating the prepackaged insolvency resolution process within a determined time period not exceeding 90 days. So this is the 90 days period in which they will file the application for initiating the prepackage. So they will provide a declaration also for this. and that the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process is not being initiated to defraud any person. So they will, all the directors, means here is the majority of directors or partners. So majority will give this declaration. Who will give? The majority of directors or partners will give this declaration, and they will provide all these things. The 3 points are there. One is they are not, they will not file, the deadline is here, and the second part is they will not defer to any person, and the other is the name of the IRP and approved to be appointed as a resolution professional under this clause E. So these 3 things they will provide at the time of giving the declaration. So what is the duty here which we are discuss? The application for initiating the pre-packaged, this is the corporate debtor failed to file an application for initiating the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process within the time period as stated, which we have already read 90 days under the declaration referred in clause this, or the application for initiating the prepackaged insolvency resolution process is admitted or rejected by the adjudicating authority, as the case may be, the fee payable to the corporate, the IP, in relation to the duty performed under subsection 1 shall be determined and borne in such manner as may be prescribed, and such fee form the part of the prepackaged insolvency resolution cost if the application for initiation of the prepackaged insolvency resolution process is admitted. So if admitted, they have defined ki what will be considered, and this will become the prepackaged insolvency resolution process cost part, but they have not given that if the application was not admitted, then who will pay? So we will read this in the regulation. So the fee where the corporate debtor fail. So this is basically here. If the corporate debtor failed to file the application for the application of initiation of the resolution process is rejected, the fee payable to the RP for performing the duty shall be borne by the corporate debtor. So in case if the IRP, if the corporate debtor failed to file the application, then they will pay the fee of the IP. Now, corporate debtor shall maintain a separate bank account with such amount as may be advised by the committee from time to time, and subject to the provision of clause 23C of section 5. And such account shall be operated by the RP to meet his fee and expenses incurred by him for conducting the process. So basically, they have also said ki the separate account required to be maintained here, and this required to be it is advised, the amount as may be advised by the committee from time to time, and subject to the provision of this, such account shall be operated by the RP to meet his fees and expenses incurred by him for conducting the process. But I have a suggestion here. They have written the corporate debtor shall maintain a separate bank account. So the control of this account is with the corporate debtor or with the IP. So there should be a specific who will be the authority of this separate bank account, because in pre-packaged insolvency resolution process, basically the corporate debtor filed the application, and they will the whole company's handover is with the corporate debtor. So in this case, who will the authority of this account basically? So I think there should be a specific mentioning should be there. The resolution professional should be the authority for holding this account, and he will meet his fee and expenses whatever incurred by him for conducting the process. So this change, I think this should be here. And if anyone want to give any suggestions for these sections which we have discussed, section 7, eligibility, fee of the resolution professional, and the account. So is there any suggestion on this 2 section, the 7 or 8? fee of the RP?
It's too early, ma'am. There are not so many cases are there.
Yes, sir. No.
It's too early to give any suggestion.
So, no suggestion now, no? Hello? Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am, I am not so much expertise in this, but as
Yes.
you raised a question regarding
Sir,
who will be,
ma'am, everyone is not expert here because
yes, ma'am.
ITC is in itself is a very wide area, and I think
Yes,
we will take 20, 40 years more to become as an expert in this field.
yes, ma'am.
So this
Yes,
is
but as
yeah,
you raised a query regarding who will be
yeah,
the operating authority of the
yeah,
account,
yeah,
bank account.
yes, yes.
So the section itself speaks about the operational authority. I think it is a resolution professional.
Operated by but I think they should also mention of the authority is only the RP, because CD should maintain a separate bank account, they have
Yes, yes.
mentioned here. So I think they should also clarify the whole of the whole maintenance of the account is with the hand of the RP only.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, so this is only my
Much
suggestion.
obliged.
Yeah.
It is not. This
Yeah.
basically like this.
Yes, yes.
Okay, the account as per the COC's permission, the amount will be kept in the CD
Yeah,
account. And
yeah,
every penny going out of the account should be vouched and properly accounts to be maintained by the RP, which generally in any process we are the people, we are
yes,
doing it.
yes. RP is only doing the because in all other process the handover is with the RP. But in this case, the whole handover is not exist with the RP, because the CD still hold the company's whole handover. So in this case, this is required. Specifically, they have required to mention that the authorized signatory and the operating authority is only the RP, not the corporate debtor.
Episode marriage should be funded by the CD.
Yes, yes. As per the instruction of the committee of creditors, the RP should operate.
Manage.
Yeah, yeah. But the however, the RP is the ultimate authority for this.
True.
Ma'am, are you talking about, we are discussing this in voluntary liquidation or PPRP?
Sir,
We are discussing this in normal CRP.
sir, no. We are discussing because in PI, in the pre-packaged insolvency process, the handover is not exist with the RP. The whole handover of the company is with the CD only. So in this case, they have told that required to operate a separate account, separate bank account. So in this case, the who will operate this account? The only the RP should operate this account, not the corporate debtor. So they should mention specifically the CD will not be the authority to maintain or as a AR of this separate bank account.
So what will be the purpose of this account?
Sir, purpose is there that the whole fees, expenses of the whatever is required to be paid for the pre-packaged insolvency process will be paid only through this account only. Because it is also writing here, na, the corporate debtor shall maintain a separate account with such amount as may be advised by the committee from time to time, and subject to the provision of clause this, such account shall be operated by the RP to meet his fee and expenses. So fee and expenses is here incurred by him for conducting the process.
Okay.
Ma'am, I will suggest something.
Yes, yes, sir.
It's not only for the fees and expenses, every transaction in this account should be approved by the RP.
Yes, yes, sir. This is also a good suggestion. So will be noted.
So what would be the fees in this case? That the previous para of this fees, fee of resolution professional, what the corporate debtor fails to file an application and is rejected. For initiation of the process is rejected, the fee payable to the. So how much is there any fixation of fees in case of PPRP?
No, no, sir.
Okay. So, who determined the fees? Wait a minute.
Because we will read this also, because the proposal was made by the FC. I will also read the sections also, sir.
Okay.
The regulations also. So continue with this.
Okay.
Now, access to books. The RP may access the books of accounts, records, and other documents to the extent relevant for discharging his duties under the code of the corporate debtor held with members, promoters. So access is available with the RP. They can access the books of accounts, records, and other documents to the extent relevant for the discharging of his duties under the code of the corporate debtor held with the members, promoters, partners, directors, and JV partners of the corporate debtor. Professionals, advisors engaged by the corporate debtor, so they can access the books with these type of these persons. The depositories of securities, registries, and records of ownership of assets, and contractual counterparties of the corporate debtor. So they can access the books here. Now, appointment of the professionals. The RP
Ma'am,
may,
one thing regarding access to books.
yes sir, बताइए.
The
Yes,
words use of resolution professional may access.
yes.
It should be duty of the corporate debtor to provide,
shall mandatorily.
shall provide access to books of accounts in every document,
Yes,
as in the case of auditor of a corporate.
yes. Sir, you can also mention in the chat box. So ICSI IPA can also note it down. The regulation 9 of this. I will give this summary to the ICSI IPA. However, if you are comfortable, you can also mention in the
I will
chat
try
box.
to.
Yeah. Thank you. Now, appointment of professional. The RP may appoint a professional under clause E of subsection 3 of section 54F, provided that the following person shall not be appointed as a professional, namely, who will not be appointed as a professional. They have declared here, the RP may appoint a professional under clause E of subsection 3 of section 54F. Now we have required to read this 54F. So 54F, what is provided as per 54F? Duties and power of the RP during the prepackaged insolvency resolution process. So we were already read this part, the 54F, the duties and power of the RP during prepackaged insolvency resolution process. So they have said the RP may, here is also the word may, appoint a professional under clause E of subsection 3 of section 54F. The RP shall conduct the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process of the corporate debtor during the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process period. The RP shall permit the following duty. And now subsection 3. I will show you subsection 3 and F. And F. Collect all information relating to the assets, finances, and operations of the corporate debtor for determining the financial position of the corporate debtor. As we read, this is also in the CIRP process, this type of regulation of the corporate debtor, and the existence of any transaction that may be within the scope of the provision relating to the avoidance of transaction under Chapter 3, or fraudulent or wrongful trading under Chapter 6, including the information relating to business operations for the previous 2 years from the date of the prepackaged insolvency commencement date, and the financial and operational payments for the previous 2 years from the date of the prepackaged insolvency commencement date, the list of assets and liabilities as on the initiation date, and such other matters as may be prescribed. So basically, they have required to collect these informations, and they have prescribed the period here also. So now the appointment of professionals. RP may appoint the professional under clause E of subsection 3. E of subsection 3, appoint a consultant, legal or other professional in such manner as may be prescribed, provided that the following person shall not be appointed as a professional, namely the person who is not registered with the regulator for the professional concerned, a related party of the corporate debtor, any auditor of the corporate debtor, or at any time during the 5 years preceding the prepackaged insolvency commencement date, and the partner or the director of the IPE of which the RP is the partner or director. So these type of consultants they cannot appoint, and the relatives of the RP or the partner of the director of the IPE of which the RP is a partner or director. So these type of person cannot be appointed as a consultant. Now, disclosure of cost. The resolution professional shall make the disclosure at the time of his appointment and thereafter in accordance with the code of conduct as set out in the IBBI professional IP regulation 2016, and the resolution professional shall disclose item wise process cost in such manner as may be required by the board. Now, preservation of records. The RP shall preserve a physical as well as an electronic copy of the records relating to the process of the corporate debtor as per the records retention schedule as may be required by the board in consultation with the IPA. And however, they have not prescribed the time here, because for other regulations they have specifically prescribed the timeline for the preservation of the records. Now, filing of reports and forms. The RP shall file such form along with the enclosures thereto or on a electronic platform as may be required by the board in consultation with the IPA. So, is there any suggestions for these sections from the participants? Is there any
Regarding
change?
item,
Yes,
regarding
yes,
preservation of records,
yes.
it should be at least as per the Companies Act, the
Yes,
period
sir.
for preservation of accounts,
Yes, for others,
or
for
or or otherwise specified.
Because preservation of records is already mentioned in the CIRP and liquidation process regulations, but here they have not written specifically.
So they must.
Hmm. Now, initiation of process. So, approvals by the financial creditors. Now, I will show you the section also. For the purpose of clause E of subsection 2 and subsection 3 of section 54A, the applicant shall convene the meeting of the FC who are not related parties of the corporate debtor. So basically, they have given the FC will be the person who will not be the creditors, the related parties of the CD. Now, the notice of the meeting under sub-regulation 1 shall be served to the FC who are not related parties to the CD at least 5 days before the date of the meeting, unless a shorter time is agreed to by all of them. The notice of the meeting under this regulation shall indicate the time, date, venue of the meeting and enclose the list of creditors along with the amount due to them in form P2. So, the FC who are not related parties to the corporate debtor and have not less than 10% of the value of the financial debt of such creditors may propose. Here is the only propose. Name of the IP for the purpose of clause E of subsection 2 of section 54A. Now I will read this also because this is very relevant and there is some amendments required from my side in this. This is the 54A 2E. 54A. This is 54A subsection 2 or E. The financial creditors of the corporate debtor shall not, being its related parties, representing such number and such manner as may be specified, have proposed, here is also proposed word is used, has proposed the name of the IP to be appointed as a resolution professional for conducting the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process of the corporate debtor, and the financial creditors of the corporate debtors not being its related parties, representing not less than 66% in value of the financial debt due in such creditor, have approved such proposal as form in such form as may be prescribed. So, so the proposal is the proposed word is also have proposed the name. So the proposal is also there, and the financial creditor of the corporate debtor not being its related party is represented in not less than 66%. Here they have given the overall 66%, but here they are saying only have not less than 10% of the value of the total financial debt of such creditor may propose the name. So they will only propose the name. So have approved such proposal in such form as may be prescribed. So I think as per my understanding, I want to suggest something. I will also show you. Actually, the threshold for the proposal versus approval is here. The section 54A 2E only refrain the final proposal is being made by the financial creditor representing 66% or more in value. And however, regulation 14.4, which we are reading here, this is the 14.4. This provide, however, introduce a lower threshold, which is less than 10% or not more than means the 10%. Here, not less than 10% for the purpose of suggesting the name. Here they have said that the approval is required and suggestion of the name is with the not less than 10% of the IP. So there, this raise a question like, is there a normal proposal under 54A2 only after 66% FC is approved, or can the 10% of group suggestions also be count as a proposal? So lack in clarity in this definition part. So I would like to suggest otherwise to avoid this ambiguity as per section 54A2 could be reworded or clarified. An amendment here which I have made have proposed the name of the IP in section 54A2 as may be suggested by the financial creditor holding not less than 10% in value and approved by those holding not less than 66%. Either they can make this change in section in this section itself. In this section itself, here they should provide this, or alternatively the regulation 14.4 in 14.4 which we are reading, the 14.4 could add a clarifying explanation, like the explanation is there, the proposal referred to in section 54A 2E shall be deemed to have been made only upon the approval of the financial creditor, not the related parties, representing not less than 66% in value of the financial debt. So they should they can make this explanation in 54 regulation 14.4. After this, they can insert here the
I think
explain.
54
Yes,
2A needs
yes.
to be clarified.
Yes, sir.
54A to E. There it should be
Hmm.
that
4A
10%
to
can,
E.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
10% can propose and approval is required for 66%.
But sir, it is not mentioned here, na, ki 10% can propose.
Ah,
Here is only
that is
they have
the,
mentioned the financial creditors of the corporate debtor not being its related party representing such number and such manner as may be specified have proposed the name of the IP to be appointed as a RP for the conducting of the prepackaged IP
just a second.
resolution process. So I
The
just only
financial,
suggesting ki
yeah,
more clarity, they should prescribe, have proposed the name of the IP as may be suggested by the financial creditor holding not less than 10% in value and approved by
yes,
those
yes.
holding not less than, yes.
That
So
regulation
sir,
14.4 should be mentioned in 54 to E.
yeah, 54AE should be amended here. In 54E, they should
This
mention here.
regulation 14,
Yeah,
regulation
now
14.4
after
should be,
14.4,
this
now
regulation should be mentioned here. 54 to E.
54
That
to
effect should be.
where
In
is
54 to E,
yes,
this should be regulation, the effect of 14.4 should be here in 52E.
I'm not able to understand you. What you want to say? This is correct or something is some other suggestions is from your side, sir. The 54 2E we have required to amend here not less than 10% in value and approved by those holding not less than 66% in value. They should specifically mention there. And now after regulation 54.4, which we are reading here, 54.4, explanation should be inserted. The explanation, what is provided as per explanation, the proposal referred to in section 54A2E shall be deemed to have been made only upon the approval by the FC, not the related party representing not less than 66% in the value of the financial, because in this regulation they have nowhere prescribed the approval is required for the 66% or not. So this is only my suggestion, and
Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
yes,
okay.
sir. So is there any some other some other inputs from your side you may suggest, sir?
Let's move forward, Abhi.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, or any other participants, if they want to make their suggestions, they can suggest. Otherwise, is this okay or this is not okay? Can I recommend this suggestion to the ICSI?
it's okay.
Yes.
Definitely, definitely.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. Now, the approval of the terms of the appointment of the resolution professional under clause E subsection 2 of section 54A shall be in form P3. So they have also prescribed the approval of the terms of appointment is as per this section 54A shall be in form P3. P3 form is mentioned here. P2 was for the creditors, list of creditors, and P3 is for the appointment terms. The term of the appointment of the RP under this regulation shall include the fee payable to him for performing the duties under subsection 1 of section 54B, and fee payable to him and expenses to be incurred by him for conducting the process, and the fee payable to him and expenses to be incurred by him in case the management of the corporate debtor is vested with him under section 54J. So 54J, what is 54J? Vesting of the management of the corporate debtor with the RP. So basically the RP is not having the right on the management. However, where the committee of creditors at any time during the prepackaged insolvency resolution process period by a vote of not less than 66% voting resolved to vest the management of the corporate debtor with the RP or the RP shall make a application for this purpose to the adjudicating authority in such manner as may be prescribed. So, in that case, the management will be vested with the IRP or RP of the company. On an application made under subsection 1, if adjudicating authority is of the opinion that during the prepackaged insolvency resolution process, the affairs of the corporate debtor have been conducted in a fraudulent manner, or there has been a gross mismanagement of the affairs of the CD, it shall pass an order vesting with the management of the corporate debtor with the RP. So in these conditions only, the adjudicating authority will pass the order. So these are the conditions required to be fulfilled for the vesting the management of the corporate debtor with the CD. So in this case, these three types of a fee required to be paid to him, the fee payable to him and expenses to be incurred by him in case of the management of the corporate debtor is vested with him under section 54G. So the approval for, however, there is not a specific provision how much fee required to be charged by the IRP or RP in this case. So this is not mentioned here. The approval for filing of the
Yeah,
application.
minimum fees should be in a minimum fees schedule.
Minimum fee should be prescribed for all for these conditions. If this is there or this is there, for performing the duties or for the appointment as already prescribed for the CIRP process. So
Minimum fees on the basis of claim size, like CRP
Yes.
regulation, can please be prescribed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, I will. Now, the approval for filing of application under subsection 3 of section 54A shall be in form P4. The application form is the P4, where the corporate debtor has no financial debt or where all financial creditor are related parties. The applicant shall convene a meeting of the OC and who are not the related parties of the CD, and the provision of sub-regulation 1 to 7 shall apply, apply to them. Now, choice of the AR, how they choose on examination of the P2 form. The RP shall ascertain the class of creditors, if any, for representing of the creditors in a class ascertained under sub-regulation 1 in the committee identify pre-IRP, as we have already decided in the CIRP case also, who are not relatives of the related parties of the applicant, and the RP having their address as registered with the board in the state or union territory, as the case may be, which has the highest number of creditors in a class as per their addresses in records, and provided that where such state or union territory does not have adequate number of IP, the IP having the address in a nearby state or union territory, as the case may be, shall be considered. So they have prescribed who will be the AR and how the AR will be appointed. Now eligible to be appointed under regulation 7 and willing to act as the AR of the creditors in class and obtain the consent of the IP identified in subsequent regulation 2 to act as the AR of the creditors in form P5. So the P5 is for the consent form for the AR. Now seek the choice of the creditors in class of the IP who was consented under sub-regulation 3, provided that the creditor shall communicate their choice to the RP within 3 days. Now select the IP who is the choice of the highest number of creditor in class to act as the AR. Inform the name of the IP, selected this along with his consent in form P5. Now this is the declaration form. There is the two declaration. The first is as per 54(2)(f). So we will see what is 54(2)(f) declaration. Anyone remember? We have already read this. 54(a)(2)(f) declaration. This should be in form P6. So what is this declaration? This is from the majority of directors. We have already read this. I will again show you. The majority of directors or partners of the corporate debtor, as the case may be, made the declaration. So this declaration required to be made in P6 form. However, a declaration as per section 54C. Now, what is section 54C? This is the application to initiate the prepackaged insolvency resolution process, and 54C subsection 3 is the subsection 3, which provides the corporate debtor shall, along with the application, furnish a declaration, a special resolution, or as the case may be, approved by the FC for initiating the prepackaged, and a declaration, because C is there, the subsection 3, subsection 3, clause C. So what is clause C provided? A declaration regarding the existence of any transaction of the corporate debtor that may be within the scope of the provision in respect of avoidance of transaction. So basically this declaration is related to the avoidance of transaction or fraudulent transaction, wrongful transaction. So this declaration is prescribed for this purpose, and this is the this declaration is prescribed for the from the majority of partners. This is the normal declaration, and this is for the transaction which are any fraudulent or anything else in the company. So the declaration regarding the existence of any of the transaction. Now, report by the RP. The report under clause A of subsection 1 of section 54B shall be prepared in form P8. So this is the report by the RP. Now RP will report. We have already discussed this report. The IP proposed to appoint as a RP shall have following duties: prepare a report in such form as may be prescribed. So this is the report which have required to be submitted in form P8. Now, is there any suggestion for these declaration or reporting related sections or any other section? Any other regulation? So we'll continue. Information to be furnished by the applicant for the purpose of clause D of subsection 3 of section 54C. The applicant shall furnish audited financial statement of the last 2 financial years, because we have already read this. The 2 years they have required to submit as per the declaration also, because here we have already read this. The 2 years financial required to be submitted. So here they have also mentioned that last 2 financial years audited financial statements, provided the financial statement for the current financial year made up to the date of declaration, clause F of section 2 of this, and P5 form is submitted by the AR selected as per regulation base. So is there any suggestion for changes in these sections? Otherwise, I will go for the next chapter. So no suggestions. Now we'll proceed with this chapter, chapter number 5, public announcement and claims. Now, public announcement, what is, how they have made? The RP shall make a public announcement within 2 days of the commencement of the CIRP process, the commencement of the process of the prepackaged process. The public announcement referred to in sub-regulation 1 shall be in form P9. So P8, P7, P5, we have already discussed all these forms. Now public announcement should be made in P form, P9 form. Sent to every creditors listed in form P2 and sent to the information utilities and publish on the website of any of the CD and the board. So this is also required to be published on the board and the CD website. Now list of claims. The corporate debtor shall submit a list of claim under subsection 1 of section 54G in form P10. So the 54(1), what is the 54G? The list of claim and preliminary information. This is the section which is related to this, the list of claim and preliminary information memorandum. The corporate debtor shall within 2 days of the prepackaged insolvency commencement date submit to the RP the following information updated as on date in such form and manner as may be prescribed: list of claim along with the details of the respective creditors, their security, interest, and guarantee, if any. A preliminary information memorandum containing the information relevant for the formulating of a resolution plan. So, where any person has sustained any loss, damage, or consequence of the omission of any material information or inclusion of any misleading in the list of claim or the preliminary information memorandum submitted by the corporate debtor, every person who is the promoter or director or partner of the CD, as the case may be, at the time of submission of the list of claim or preliminary information memorandum by the corporate debtor, or has authorized the submission of the list of claim or the preliminary information memorandum by the CD shall, without prejudice to this, be liable to pay the compensation to every person who has sustained such loss or damage. So basically, they have provided what is the list of the claim and the preliminary information memorandum. So basically, the corporate debtor shall submit a list of claim as per section 54G in form P10 to the CD. Now, based on the records of the CD and all the relevant material in the records, the CD shall confirm the details received in form P10. Now, the RP shall inform every creditors regarding its claim as confirmed by him and seek the objections, if any. And the creditor may submit the objection along with the supporting documents to the RP within 7 days from the receipt of the communication. Now, RP may call for such other evidence or clarification as it deems fit from a creditors for sustaining the whole or the part of its claim. So the same as in the CIRP process, this is, and the RP shall consider every objections received under this regulation and modify the claim if required. The creditor shall update its claim as and when the claim is satisfied or the partly or fully from any source in any manner after the prepackaged insolvency commencement date. And the RP shall maintain a list of claim in form P10 and update it as and when required. So form P10 shall be available for inspection by the creditors, members, partners, directors, guarantors, or the CD. Display on the website of the CD and file with the board. So this form is also required to be filed with the IBBI board also and presented at the meeting of the committee as it when updated. So this is basically also required at this stage. Now, determination of the amount of claim. So how to determine the amount of claim? Where the amount of the claim of creditors is not precise due to any contingency or other reason, the RP shall make the best estimate of the amount is the same which is in the CIRP process, the best estimate of the amount of the claim based on the information available within. And the RP shall revise the amount of claim confirmed, including the estimate of the claim made under sub-regulation 1 as soon as may be practicable when he come across the additional information warranting such revision. Now, debt in foreign currency, if claim is denominating in the foreign currency, shall be valued in Indian currency. Same regulation is here, or at the official exchange rate as on the prepackaged commencement date. So the CIRP date in case of the CIRP process is the same as here prepackaged in the prepackaged insolvency commencement date. Now, official exchange rate, what is the explanation of this is the difference reference rate prescribed by the RBI or the derived from such reference rates. Now, transfer of debt due to creditors, where the creditors assign or transfer the debt due to such creditor to any other person during the process period. Both parties shall provide the resolution professional, the term of such assignment or transfer, and the identity of the assignee or the transferee for updation as per the regulation 8 of regulation 20. So is there any suggestions from the participant side required to make any changes in these regulations, or this will be continue as the same? So there is no changes required as per this chapter. Now, committee of creditors. So what is the committee of creditors? The committee with only creditors in a class, where the corporate debtor has only creditors in class and no other financial creditor who are not related parties of the CD. The committee shall consist only the AR. Now, committee with only OC, because if there is not FC, not class of creditors, then OC. So where the corporate debtor has no financial debt or all financial creditors are related party, the committee shall consist of the OC being not related to the corporate debtor as under 10 largest, the same which is in the CIRP process, 10 largest OC by value. And if the number of OC is less than 10, the committee shall include all such OC. One representative elected by the workman, one representative elected by the employee, and a member of the committee formed under this regulation shall have the voting right in proportion of the debt due to such debt creditor or the debt represented by such representative as the case may be to the total debt. Now, for the purpose of this sub-regulation, total debt, what is the meaning of total debt? They have also defined here is the sum of the amount of debt due to the creditors listed in clause A of sub-regulation 1, the amount of aggregate debt due to the workman, and clause B of sub-regulation 1, and amount of aggregate debt due to the employee of the as per regulation this. So this will be considered as a sum of the debt, the total debt. Now, the committee formed in accordance with regulation 24-25 as the case may be, and its members shall have the same right, power, duties, obligations at the committee comprising the financial creditor and its member. Now, change in committee. Any change in the composition of the committee of creditors shall be intimated to all the members of the committee within 2 days of such change. So, is there any suggestions for any change in this part of this regulation? Yes.
I don't.
No change. So now meeting of the committee. We will discuss the meeting of the committee. The RP may convene the meeting of the committee as and when we consider necessary. And the RP shall convene a meeting if he requests to all effect is made by the member of the committee representing 33% of the voting share. Now, notice for the meeting of the committee. The meeting of the committee shall be convened by giving not less than 3 days notice in writing to every participant to the address provided to the RP by the creditors, and the committee may reduce the notice time period from 3 days to the not less than 24 hours as it deemed fit, provided that the committee may reduce the period to such other period of not less than 48 hours if there is any AR is in the committee. So it's the same as per the CIRP. If AR is there, 48-hour notice, otherwise 24-hour shorter notice. Service of notice. Now the notice may be sent to the participants through the email or text or an attachment to the email or as a notification provided electronic link or the uniform resources locator. And the subject line in email shall state the name of the corporate debtor, a place, any time or date which the meeting scheduled. So this is the service of the notice, basically how to serve the notice. Now content in the notice of the meeting, what should be content in the notice of the meeting. So this is also prescribed here. What is the content of the notice of the meeting? The notice shall inform the participant the venue, because venue should be their time, date of the meeting, and of the option available to them to participate through VC or other audio or visual means, and shall also provide all the necessary information to enable the participants through the video conferencing. So basically, these are the contents of the notice. And notice of the meeting shall contain the following: the list of members to be discussed at the meeting, a list of issue to be voted upon at the meeting, and the copies of all documents relevant to the matters to be discussed and issued to the vote upon at the meeting. So these following documents required to be attached with the notice of the meeting. The notice of the meeting shall state the process and manner for voting by electronic means and the time schedule, including the time prescribed during which the vote may be cast, and provided the login ID and details of the facility for generating the password and for keeping the scrutiny and casting of the votes in a secure manner. And the provided the contact detail of the person who will address the queries connected with the electronic voting. So the notice of the meeting shall state all these things also. Now quorum, what will be considered as the quorum? The quorum is the same, which is CIRP. In the CIRP, the meeting of the committee shall quorate if the members of the committee representing at least 33%. They're the same as in the CIRP process. The voting are present either in person or the video conferencing or other audiovisual means, provided that the committee may modify the percentage of the voting shares required for the quorum in respect of the future meeting of the committee. Here the meeting of the committee could not be held for the want of quorum. Unless the committee has previously decided otherwise, a meeting shall automatically stand adjourned at the same time, place on the next day. So next day, only for the next day meeting will be adjourned, not for the next week, next day only. In the event of the meeting of the committee is adjourned in accordance with sub-regulation 2, the adjourned meeting shall quorate with the members of the meeting attending the meeting. So if the meeting adjourned, so in the event of committee meeting was held is the adjourned meeting, the adjourned meeting shall be quorate with the members whoever is attending the meeting. So in this case, 33% will not be considered if next day meeting will be held. So same as prescribed for the CIRP, so they have prescribed here for the prepackaged also. Now participation through the video conferencing. The notice convening the meeting of the committee shall provide the participants an option to attend the meeting through video conferencing or any other video audio visual means in accordance with the regulation, and the RP shall make the necessary arrangement to ensure the uninterrupted and clear video, audio, and visual connection, and RP shall take the due and reasonable care to safeguard the integrity of the meeting by ensuring the sufficient security and scrutiny, security and the identification process. So here is the RP will conduct and hold the meeting and will arrange all the system for the meetings. Now, conduct of the meeting, RP shall conduct as the chairperson, because it's the same in the CIRP process. The chairperson will be the RP only in this case also. So all the commencement of the meeting, the RP shall take a roll call for every participant attending the meeting at the venue or participating through the video conferencing or other visual, audio visual means. Record and they shall state for the records the following: their name, whether he is attending in the capacity of the member of the committee or any other participants, or whether he is representing as a member or a group of members. So they should mention and state and the location from where the participants is attending, and that he has received the agenda and all other relevant materials for the meeting, and that no one other than him is attending or has access to proceeding of the meeting at the location of that person. And after the roll call, the RP shall inform the participants of the names of all persons who are present for the meeting and confirm if the required quorum is complete. So basically, this is the conduct of the meeting, how the RP will conduct the meeting, and RP shall ensure that the required quorum is present throughout the meeting. So the quorum is required to be present throughout the meeting here. From the commencement of the meeting till its conclusion, no person other than the participants and any other person whose presence is required by the RP shall be allowed to access to the place where the meeting is held, or the video conferencing or other audiovisual facility is there. So RP shall ensure that minutes are made in relation to each of the meeting, and such minutes shall disclose the particular of the participants who attend the meeting in person or through the VC or other means. The committee with creditors in class, the RP shall provide the list of creditors in class. So this is the meeting, basically the concept of the meeting is there, the voting by the committee. So any action required the approval of the committee shall be considered in the meeting of the committee. And the RP shall take the vote of the members of the committee present in meeting on any item listed for the meeting after the discussion. So this is basically how they will conduct the meeting. Basically, this is the part. So is there any changes required in this part, or I will proceed further because the time is less. So some other chapters have required to be discussed also. So no change required in the above part. Now the valuation and information memorandum. Now appointment of the registered valuer. The RP shall within 3 days of his appointment appoint the 2 registered valuer. Because in CIRP process, the registered valuer is required to be appointed within 47 days or something. But here is within 3 days from his appointment required to appoint the 2 registered valuer who determine the fair value and liquidation value of the CD, provided that the following person shall not be appointed as the registered valuer, namely the related party of the CD. We have already read the related party cannot become and consultant, so they cannot also appoint as a registered valuer here. A related party of the CD, an auditor of the CD, or at any time during the 5 years, or the partner director of the IPE, of which the RP is a partner or director, or the relatives of the RP, or of any of the partner or director of the IPE of which the resolution professional is a partner or director. And fair value and liquidation value. So fair value and liquidation value shall be determined in the following manner. Now, how to determine this? The registered valuer appoint as per regulation 38 shall submit to the RP an estimate of the fair value of the liquidation value computed in accordance with the internationally accepted valuation standard, and after physical verification of the inventory and fixed assets of the corporate debtor. So the average of the value determined by the 2 register values shall be considered as the fair value or the liquidation value as the case may be. So this is the same which is in case of the CIRP process. So same is mentioned here. After the receipt of the resolution plan in accordance with this, the RP shall provide the fair value and the liquidation value to every member of the committee in electronic form. Now IM information memorandum. The preliminary IM shall provide details required under sub-regulation 2. The IM shall contain the following details of the CD, assets, liabilities with such description as generally necessary for setting their value. Description includes the details such as the date of acquisition, cost of acquisition, so should be mentioned there, and latest annual financial statement, audited financial statement of the CD, So in IM, mostly the same particulars are mentioned, which was also mentioned in the CIRP stage, and the particular of the debt due from or to the corporate debtor with respect to the related parties, detail of the guarantees, name and address of the members, partners holding more than 1% stake in the CD, details of all material litigations, workmen, employee liabilities, and other information. So the whole things have required to be mentioned in the IM, and the RP shall finalize the IM with details under sub-regulation 2 and submit to the members of the committee within 14 days of the prepackaged insolvency commencement date after receiving the undertaking from the member of the committee. To the effect of such members or the resolution applicant shall maintain the confidentiality of the information. The members of the committee may request the RP or the corporate data for further information. Now preferential or other transaction on or before the 30th day from the prepackaged insolvency commencement date, the RP shall form an opinion whether the CD has been subjected to any transaction covered as per section 43, 45, 40, 50 or 66. So the RP will determine within 30 days. In CIRP process, the deadline is 130 days, I think, but here is the 30th day. Where the RP is of the opinion that the CD has been subjected to any transaction covered in this, he shall make a determination before the 45th day to the prepackaged insolvency commencement date and intimate to the board here. Where the RP makes a determination under sub-regulation 2, he shall apply to the adjudicating authority for appropriate relief on before the 16th day of the prepackaged insolvency commencement date. So they can also make a shall apply to the adjudicating authority for the appropriate relief if required within 60 before the 60th day. Now, scoring and improvement of the resolution plan. So for the purpose of consideration of the resolution plan, basis of evaluation, some of the bases they have mentioned here, how the evaluation should be made. So I will not discuss this because the illustrations are already given here in a detailed manner. So we'll go for the invitation of the resolution plan for the purpose of subsection 5 of section 54K. The RP shall publish brief particular of the invitation for the resolution plan in form P11. So P10, we have already discussed the forms till the P10. Now P11 form for the invitation of the resolution plan. So in form G, in case of the CIRP process, we invite in form G, but here is the P11 form. Or not later than 21 days from the prepackaged insolvency commencement date. And the RP shall publish form P11 on the website of the CD and on the website of, if any of the board for this purpose or in any other manner as may be decided by the committee. So the P11 form shall state where the invitation or the resolution plan can be downloaded and obtained from as the case may be, and provide the last date for the submission of the resolution plan, which shall not be less than 15 days from the date of the issue of the invitation. So at least 15 days required to be given for the submission of the resolution plan. And the invitation for the resolution plan shall detail each step in the process and the manner and purpose of interaction between the RP and the resolution applicant, along with the corresponding timelines, including the basis for the evaluation. So they have prescribed how to submit, in which form have required to be submit. Now resolution plan shall provide for the measure as may be necessary for maximization of the value of the assets, including the following: the transfer of all or part of the assets of the CD to any or one or more person, or sale, or they have also prescribed how to maximize the value of the assets of the CD, which required to be mentioned, and measures to be provided as per the resolution plan. Now, mandatory contents of the resolution plan, they have also mentioned, but one thing is missing in this in these regulations also, which as per my suggestions is there, implementation, because there is nothing is mentioned for the implementation of the resolution plan, because submission is there, evaluation is there, content of the resolution plan is there, approval of the resolution plan is there, but however there is no provision which is prescribed for the implementation of the resolution plan. So there should be a separate regulation, the 59A or something, whatever is convenient for the IBBI. They can introduce any regulation which is required to be implementation of the resolution plan. Now, after submission, they can mention here 46A is the implementation of the resolution plan. So, is there any suggestions from other members?
Agreed.
Yeah, so implementation should be there. The implementation in the resolution plan should be there.
Responsibility of RP in implementation.
Yes, sir. Implementation of resolution plan and a detailed something is required to be mentioned, monitoring committee or something which is as per the CIRP process for the implementation of the resolution plan. So should be here also.
And the fees payable to
And he is sir,
and the fees payable.
yes, and the fee, yeah, and fee of IRP, how much? Now, these are the basically the resolution plan related regulations and approval of the resolution plan. The resolution plan selected under regulation 47 shall be considered by the committee for its approval if it is significantly better than the base resolution plan, and where no resolution plan is received under regulation 46 which complies with the requirement of the code and these regulations, the base resolution plan may be considered by the committee for the approval. In cases not covered under sub-regulation 1 or 2, the RP shall disclose the scores of the resolution plan selected under regulation 46 and the base resolution plan to submitted of these submitters of these resolution plan and invite them to improve their resolution plan in the accordance with the regulation 4. So the submitters of the resolution plan under sub-regulation 3 shall have an option to improve its resolution plan in the following manner. Submitters of the resolution plan which is has lower score shall have an option to improve its resolution plan by at least a tick size, and then the submitter of the other resolution plan shall have an option to improve its resolution plan by at least a tick size, and then the submitter under clause A shall have an option to improve its by at least a tick size. So they have mentioned how the resolution plan can be amended, or how can the tick size they can make some, if not meet the criteria of the resolution plan, then the submitters can have the option to do this. Now, application to the adjudicating authority, where an resolution plan is approved by the committee, the RP shall submit the application along with the compliance certificate in form P12. So P11 we have already discussed, invitation of the resolution plan, and P12 is for the compliance certificate to the adjudicating authority for approval. The RP shall forthwith send a copy of the order of the adjudicating authority approving or rejecting the resolution plan to the participants and the resolution applicant, and RP shall within 7 days of the order of the adjudicating authority approving the resolution plan intimate each claimant the principal or the formula as the case may be for the payment of debts under such resolution plan, and where no resolution plan is approved by the committee or where the committee has approved the termination of the process, the RP shall file an application in form P13 to the adjudicating authority for the termination of the process. However, they have also not mentioned ki in case if the termination process is there from the side of the committee of creditors, then the company will go for the CIRP process, or the company will go for which process at the time of if the termination was there. So as per my
But in that case, for CARP, that insolvency, somebody has to make an application. Either the corporate debt itself makes an application.
Yes, sir. Here is the corporate debtor have required to make the application, but after all these things was happened, or if there is a termination, then the company will go for the CIRP process or will back on the foot which was earlier.
There is
So-
some debt which is not paid. Insolvency conditions, if they are not met, then the company will continue as it is.
So, so you are saying the company will be continue even if the termination was approved by the creditors.
Here, opinion of the RP or some other valuer is required whether the company is solvent or not, if the
Okay.
termination is there. Once the opinion is there, accordingly, that next step has to be taken. Liquidation or insolvency.
Okay, okay. So, there is any change required in this or something you can suggest?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, after termination, that
Hmm.
determination, that certificate is required from an appropriate professional,
Hmm.
whether the company is solvent or
Hmm.
insolvent, and whether it will go to liquidation or CRP is required.
Mhm. Sir, if you are comfortable, you can also mention in the chat box, so ICSI IPA can consider your suggestion. And I will also mention here later on. And I will submit this to the ICSI IPA. So if you are comfortable, you can mention in the chat box also. Now, management during the process. The corporate debtor shall not manage the affairs of the corporate debtor in a manner prejudicial to the creditors of the corporate debtor or in a fraudulent manner. So, the management during the process, the CD shall not manage the affairs of the CD in a manner prejudicial to the creditors or the corporate debtor in a fraudulent manner. The corporate debtor shall not undertake any of the following action without the prior approval of the committee. The transaction above the threshold as may be decided by the committee, and any other matter as decided by the committee and not covered under section 28. The CD in consultation with the RP shall prepare a monthly report and forward it to the members of the committee with the following details: detail of the legal proceeding having the material impact on the business of the CD, detail of the key contracts executed during the reporting period, any other relevant matter, and RP may call for information relating to the operations of the CD, including the payment made, visit the premises of the CD, inspect the assets of the CD, and call for information related to the compliances applicable to the CD and its status, and ask for the details of litigation initiated by or against the CD, and ask details for ascertaining the conduct of the CD during the process. So this may is here only, but I think there is not a specific right was given to the RP. The RP shall call for the information. So there is any suggestion that the may is okay or shall should be there? The RP may call for information related to the operations of the corporate debtor, including the payments made. So may is okay here.
I think, ma'am, it should be shall, no? Because it makes it more perfect.
shall, but this will be this will become mandatory part for the
Okay.
RP also, no? I think May is good.
May is better, yeah.
Yeah, May is better. Vesting of the management with the RP. For the purpose of subsection 1 of section 54J, the RP shall make an application in form P40 vesting the management with the RP, because we have read, because if there is something is in the company, then the management will be vested with the RP, but for this purpose they have required to make an application in form P40. So now these are the scheduled, and some forms have been prescribed here. All the forms is prescribed here, which is the part of this pre-package insolvency resolution process passed. So as per my opinion, that a timeline should also be mentioned here, as in the CIRP regulation, in the liquidation regulation, the timeline is given. So they should also make a chart for the timeline, I think. After this regulation, after the end of this regulation, there should be a timeline chart should be there also.
Right, madam.
Yes, sir. So is there any suggestions?
I think we are good, madam, so far what we have suggested.
Oh, okay, sir. Thank you. So, other participants, if they want to take any initiative in this, or they can want to suggest some changes for the better regulations, they can suggest their changes. So we'll conclude the session, I think. Now we should conclude the session, and the next session will be held on 13th and 14th also. So the 13th June, sir, please mute your mic. 13 June and 14 June will be the date for the next session, and this is very relevant session, because in this session we will discuss the some CIRP regulation or something. So some effective changes was came very latest in these regulations. So we'll attend the seminar, whatever is organized on the next date. Now we should conclude here. I'm requesting to the ICSI IPA. Now we should conclude the session. Is there anyone from the ICSI IPA?
Yes, ma'am. Can we
Yes.
conclude now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you all the participants for such an interactive and nice session.
Thank
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. And
Thank-
thank you,
thank
the
you, ma'am.
participants.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much.
Okay.